Hey everyone, and thank you for joining this session. Welcome to Caseware Audit, revolutionize the audit process and focus on the areas that matter. We've invited you to take a look at this entirely cloud-based software, allowing firms to complete audits in an integrated solution with guided workflows and optimization built throughout. Caseware Audit provides a whole new way to manage the audit process, from associated communications and client requests to risk assessment and value-added analytics. Auditors can now move their focus to the right areas of each audit engagement. The results: audits are completed faster, providing higher quality results for the client and time saved on each audit performed. Since this is all completely cloud-based, it's multi-user and accessible from wherever you may be working from. Let's take a look at two key benefits of Caseware Audit: streamlining work processes and centralized risk management, and improving audit quality processes, communication, and transparency. We've streamlined work processes by centralizing the risk management. This allows you to record and view engagement risks from anywhere within the file. Leveraging CPA Canada content, there is a predefined list of risks users can choose to select from, so risk assessment is provided upfront. This minimizes the chances of overworking an audit file. This also optimizes the workflow to include only the areas that are scoped into the engagement based on the risk assessment, improving audit quality, processes, communication, and transparency. So all communications are securely sent, received, and tracked. This eliminates the need for multiple email threads. Caseware Audit streamlines the entire audit process with workflow and navigation from the initial assessment interpretation to risk identification to evidence gathering and reporting. Communicate and work through the engagement with clients as well as colleagues as you're all working in one secure online location. Now let's take a closer look at Audit. Audit is powered by the Caseware Cloud platform and can be accessed from any supported web browser. I've started here in Caseware Cloud on the Entities page for my client, ABC Company. Caseware Cloud houses my client entities, as well as many pieces of valuable information about my clients, which can then be used throughout my audit engagement to help tailor the file to what I specifically need for this client. As I move through the Entities page, you'll see it's housing my client contacts, discussions with this client, has file storage, and it also shows me all of the engagement files that I have for this client. Engagements can be from our Caseware Cloud applications, can also be working papers files, as well as other engagements using software solutions outside of Caseware. So to create a new engagement, I'll press New, and then I'll select Audit. And here I can enter an engagement name. And there's a few other pieces of information I can enter here in the opening dialog. So carry forward data ensures our files are always based on the most up-to-date content by creating the engagement file off of the latest content while also carrying in data from the previous period's engagement. So I could here select the previous period's file, but in this case, I'm going to create this engagement new. I can also enter the start date and end date of this engagement, as well as some budget information. And I can assign who is going to be both working and reviewing this engagement file. So I'll press Save, and my new engagement will be created. You'll notice when I first open the engagement that it's very bare. So the audit solution builds out as you work through it in order to create an engagement file completely tailored to this specific client. So here I have my starting point, the planning optimizer. And as I mentioned, the content within the file builds itself out as you go. So as I start answering questions, additional procedures will come in. But throughout the engagement file, I do have the ability to see why content is either included or not included using this eye icon at the right-hand side. So this is showing me what visibility is set on this procedure. In this case, the existing accountant procedure is only going to show if I've answered the question, is this the first year of operations, as no. So I'll continue to answer a few questions here. And then another cool feature that we have is at the bottom of this document, you'll notice that it's directing me towards my next step. So in this case, the next step in this engagement is to complete the engagement acceptance. Now, for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to skip a number of the procedures on this document. However, it is important that I complete the acceptance of the engagement, as well as the declaration at the bottom, as this will bring a number of documents into this engagement file. I'll also note at this point that Audit is using the CPA Canada PEG audit content. So the solution is ensuring that you have the procedures, checklists, and other content needed in order to complete the audit. So now when I'm back on my documents page, a number of additional documents and areas have been added to my engagement. The documents page is structured to follow the flow of the engagement, broken into key phases. So now that I've completed the engagement acceptance, I'm ready to set up and send the engagement letter. To simplify the prep of the engagement letter, the firm logo, as well as other entity-related information, is pulled in through Caseware Cloud. So here, if I go to choose who to send this to, I'll see my list of client contacts. The content for this letter is provided out of the box. However, if I did want to make further changes, we do have an edit mode where I can then go in and add or modify this content as I need to. And this is available both at the engagement file level, or if I'm making a change that's relevant for the firm across all files, the changes can be made at the firm template level, which would then be applied to every engagement file when it's created. So once I'm happy with the wording of this letter, it's ready to go off to Linda Hughes at ABC Company to be signed. So within Audit, we have what is called the Caseware Cloud Query System. So the query system is designed to manage and organize all of your prepared by clients, or PBC, documents and client responses in order to streamline and simplify the process. So I'm sure we're all familiar with how this process tends to go. So typically near the beginning of an engagement, you might send an email to a client asking for a number of items. The client doesn't reply right away, so you go and find the email and follow up. The client may send you some of what you're looking for, but not all. You end up going back and forth. Suddenly you're sifting through potentially dozens of emails, and you're spending valuable time managing the client and the PBC process instead of working on the engagement. So you may have a portal or a workflow management tool that assists, but this is all managed outside of the engagement file and outside of the engagement workflow. So the goal in developing this client query system is to enable firms to integrate this process and provide full visibility into all the requests, which we're referring to as queries. By integrating it directly, you don't need to leave the file itself, and the responses can be inserted directly into the location within the file where they're needed. So here at the end of my engagement letter, you can see my next step is to go to the engagement letter query. So in this query, I have a request that can be sent off to my client asking them to sign the engagement letter. Linked to the request is my engagement letter, which includes all of the edits that I would have just made. And when I'm happy with this, I can click send, select a due date, select which contacts at ABC Company I want to send this to, and then I can add some text to the email. And now this has been sent off to Linda Hughes. So let's take a look at what this looks like from Linda's point of view. So when I go into Linda's email, you can see she's received a new email notification. This email has the firm name as well as firm branding so that the client contact can easily see who this is coming from. And when I press this link, it's going to ask me to log in with secure credentials, and then it'll bring me into Caseware Cloud. So Linda's actually logged directly into the engagement file here. However, she is only able to see the information that I have chosen to share. Here I have my file request, and I can drag and drop to include my signed engagement letter. Then they're prompted to mark this as responded. A couple of other items to note. You can see the status on the side of anything else awaiting response, responded to, returned from the firm, or completed. And now I'm going to switch back to the original engagement file. As I mentioned, Linda's logging directly into the file itself. So here, as the firm, I can see Linda Hughes is actually in this engagement file right now. And I can see the signed engagement letter. So here I can accept this response and mark this query as completed. For documents coming back from queries, once they're accepted, they'll be inserted directly onto your documents page. So here in my client acceptance section, you can see I now have a signed engagement letter. In addition to the signed engagement letter, there are also a number of other items I'm going to be requesting from the client during planning, as well as throughout my engagement, finally with the wrap-up and final deliverables being sent. So this is where the client query system becomes so useful within an engagement, as it's all managed within the file itself. So following the return of the engagement letter, I have my initial client queries. As there can be a large number of requests for an audit, we have an optimizer document here, which builds up the queries to be sent. So I'm going to go through and select a few options here. And now I'm going to jump into the query itself. So although we have a significant amount of content included out of the box, you're also able to completely customize this query. So I can hide anything here that I don't want to send to this client. I can easily add a new item. I can be a file upload. It can be a pick list for them to respond to. It can be text if you have a question to be answered, or they can provide you with a date. I can also edit the contents of any query that's already there and edit any of the settings. So if I wanted to switch this from being an upload to a pick list or anything like that. I'm also able to edit the location or the destination when this file comes back. So this is again in setting which folder or placeholder, if I've included placeholders, that this document will slot into when it's returned. And beyond document requests, you can also request information such as questions related to understanding the entity, where you're expecting a text input. So in this case, instead of selecting where on the documents page I want this information to go, I can select what checklists I want to link this to. So you can get right down to the procedure level. This query relates to the procedure, describe the nature of operations that's in my understanding the entity document. So just imagine how much faster you can complete the understanding the entity when the client's responses are displayed directly under the procedure within your engagement. So I'm now going to mark this query as sent. During different stages of the engagement, we'll require different sets of documents and responses. So we do have the queries page, which allows you to monitor and track them all in one place. So this is providing me with true visibility into the PBC items, enabling both your clients and staff to be more organized and responsive, and allowing you to close open items faster and progress through the engagement. So from here, I can see the status of the query, the progress, the date that I selected as the due date, and the contacts. I can also add additional contacts for this query to be sent to. I can drill directly into the query to see more details from here. So now that we have the initial engagement information back, let's import the financial information. For this demo, I'm going to show the direct connection with online accounting packages. However, I did want to mention that we do still support the 50+ accounting software direct imports that are available in Caseware working papers. We also have Excel and CSV as catch-all imports. And as many of you will have engagements which are moving from working papers, you'll notice that you can import directly from working papers to simplify the migration. In this case, I'm going to work with an online accounting package. So my client has created a login for me. And with this import, I can select to import just the the trial balance information, or I can also import transaction data. And in this case, I'm also going to include the transactions. A couple of things to draw attention to immediately after import. So you notice the net income is now showing up here in the right-hand corner of the engagement. And immediately after the import, this data is flowing through the rest of my engagement file. So I could open my financial statements and have populated balance sheet and income statement. I could open my analytical review and see graphs of the data and ratios. I can also run analytics tests on this information at this point. But from the data page itself, I can look at my accounts. Within this screen, in order to get a better understanding of the financial information, I can drill down on the account detail to see the journal entries posted to this account during the period. Back on the accounts page, I can add an annotation, and these are global annotations, so anywhere that this account is showing up, the annotation will come with it. I could add an issue related to this account as well. And we have a number of sort and filter options to really get an understanding of the data. Once I've reviewed the accounts page to get an even further understanding, I can go into my analytical overview document. So along with the procedures that I need to complete the analytical review required during the planning stage, we also have the analysis tab. And here we show a visual breakdown of key information and ratios. So I can scroll through and you see we have a number of different pieces of information and charts related to the financial information for this entity. I can also toggle on and off any of these graphs or charts depending on what I'm looking for. And we have a space to document your findings and anything related to this analytical overview. So we're now brought to one of the most important features of the audit tool, which is the central risk management. So to go back to one of the key benefits of the audit product, the centralization or single sourcing of data, specifically risks, ensures that the risks that you're recording at any point are being used throughout the engagement file, so you're doing the right amount of work in order to address those risks. So in Caseware Audit, risks can be recorded from anywhere within the file. This option at the right-hand corner, create new risk. I can add a title. And when I'm initially recording it, I can add as much or as little information here as I'm aware of at this point, but the rest I can come back to throughout the engagement file. So for example, I would leave my audit response section to later in the planning of this engagement. I'll just add a quick description. Select that this is a financial statement level risk. I could also select that this was a risk at the assertion level. And now I'll save. Keeping with the single source of data, materiality is another key area of the engagement where the ability to see and use the materiality values throughout the file adds a lot of efficiencies. So when I enter an amount for my materiality, let's make this 75%. You'll notice that the materiality shows up here along with net income in my right-hand corner. And now that we have a value here, this can also be used for other engagement tailoring, such as including content only if an area is material. It's also used to assist in the risk assessment and the scoping of an engagement. So let's take a closer look at risks. So moving into the Risks tab, first you can see a summary of all the risks that I've recorded in this file. And I can filter through to highlight specific risks. You can see the filters on the side. And as I mentioned before, if I click into a risk here, I can add or modify any of the details entered when I initially recorded it. And then we have the risk assessment page. So this page drives the remainder of the engagement, as this is where I'm going to scope out the work to be performed. So on this page, we have all of my risks are pulled in by financial statement area, and my financial statement, so on the side here, you can see the financial statement level risks, and my assertion level risks are recorded by financial statement area. This also shows me which areas are material. You can see the green M here, and it gives me the balance and the variance over the past period. So for each financial statement area, and I'll click into revenue, based on the information shown and the information that I've gathered during my planning, I'll select the inherent risk level, control risk, and this will drive my risk of material misstatement. But I do also have the option here to override any of the automated selections. Working through the scoping this way, I'm ensuring that I'm driving my audit work based on the engagement risks. So audit programs will be included in this file for any area with a balance that is material or that has a risk of material misstatement that is higher than low. So from here, for each financial statement area, I can jump to the related audit program just by pressing analysis. And this will take me to the analysis page for revenue. So on the analysis page, I can see all of the accounts that are making up my revenue totals. I can also see relevant graphs or charts related, and this will differ depending on the audit program and what's relevant for this audit program. I then also have my risks tab. So this is summarizing the risks specific to this financial statement area. So I have the risks that I've recorded for revenue, as well as the procedures that I've linked that I've said are addressing that risk in this work program. And I can see a summary of the risk assessment that I just made on the risk assessment page. And then of course we have our procedures tab. And so this gives you the procedures that need to be done for this audit program, and they're tailored based on the risk assessment. Again, with the audit solution, wherever possible, we're looking to include tools that you need to complete the engagement directly within this file. So let's consider sampling work that I would need to do for this audit area. So in my planned response to the assessed risks, I'm just going to answer a few questions. And as soon as I answer that I will be doing sampling procedures for test of details, the sampling document will be added to my documents page. So I go back and I'll scroll down to revenues, and you see here I have test of details sampling for revenue. So this document is going to help me to calculate my sample size. So I'll select which assertions I plan to address, make some choices here. And I'm entering my population to be sampled. In this case, I'm using specifically revenue from landscaping services to sample. And then I have to enter the number of physical items. And what we have, because we have the transactions in this file, I can actually gather this information directly from the data page. So if I go back here and I go into transactions, I'm going to filter these transactions. As I mentioned, I only want to sample the revenues that came in from landscaping services. So I've selected revenue, and then I'm going to look at the accounts that are selected, and I'm just going to remove some of the revenue items that are not from landscaping. I can click here on sample selection, and it's going to show me my population size. So now let's go back to that sampling document. Something to highlight here, when I'm on the documents page, we can expand this left pane, and it's going to show me my recently accessed documents. So I'll use this to go back to my test of details. and I'll enter my sample size of 379. And then when we're looking at larger specific items, again, I could have found this back on my data page by doing some filtering for high values of the transactions. In this case, I know I have one large entry that I'm going to take out of this population. And for my tolerable misstatement, I'm going to use my performance materiality value. So this is giving me a total sample size of 17. So taking this back to my data page and transactions, so my filters are saved from before. So when I go into sample selection, I'm going to select, I'm using monetary unit. My sample size is 17, but I do also have the high amount to take out. And now I'll press generate, and this is going to give me the samples that I'm going to take. And you'll notice it's giving me 17 plus it's included this transaction that I've taken out based on its size. I can now export this to a CSV file, which I can then use to create the supporting work paper for sampling. Another area where we've integrated the work directly into the file, where it previously would have been done through a separate process, is the work around journal entry testing. So a really cool feature we have within the Audit app is the direct integration of Caseware's Analytics AI tool. So Analytics AI is a powerful tool which allows you to analyze 100% of the data, and it directs you to the key risk areas and transactions to drive the work done within the audit. For a more detailed overview of Analytics AI, we do have a separate webinar that's focused specifically on that app, whereas I'm going to focus today on the use of the integration when it comes to journal entry testing required as part of the audit engagement. So if I go back to my documents page, in my risk response section, I have my journal entry analysis, and I'm going to go into Analytics Insights. So this first page here is giving me a full overview of the data for this client. So it's showing me my journal entries by risk level, the main factors influencing the high-risk journal entries, as well as other key insights into the data for this client. And scrolling down, I get a list of journal entries in order of their risk score. And with each entry, when I click into it, I get a list of what tests led to the risk score. And then clicking on each test, it'll show me which parts of this transaction were picked up. I can also configure the tests that are run. So I click here on configuration. This is going to give me a list of all of the available tests within Analytics AI. And the ones with the check mark and the green check are the ones that were selected by default and that were run in the current set of results. So for those of you that have been using Excel or other tools for journal entry testing, many of these tests will look familiar. So we have duplicate entries, we have high amounts, there's rounded amounts, unusual days, unusual times. But we also have a significant number of other tests available. And the advantages of Analytics AI is it's running all of these tests at once and then providing a risk score, which is a total of all of the tests that are run. So it's really drawing your attention to the riskiest items. It's also running the tests in seconds, saving you a significant amount of time. So here I'm going to make a couple of changes and then rerun these tests. So in this case, I'm going to take out 2-digit Benford's law, and I'm going to go back to rounded amounts, and I'm going to increase the threshold here. And I'll select to run tests, and you'll see just like that, it's given me a new set of results. But now what I can do is get a list of these journal entries that are high risk and use it to create a supporting work program where I can do the additional inquiry, vouching, and other audit work required as part of my journal entry testing. I can go to export, I'll press Save to my engagement, and I'm going to save the analysis summary as well as the results, and I can select which folder. I'll select Journal Entry Analysis. And going back to my engagement file, you can see now I have two additional documents here. So I have a summary and what this document provides is a summary of the risk score over the period, a list of the tests performed and their results, including the monetary value and the number of entries picked up by the test. And then it also provides a description of each of the tests that were performed. And then the second file is a CSV file which provides a list of all of the journal entries caught by the tests that were run, or the results. It gives the total score information, including which tests built up that total score. And so this CSV can be used as the starting point to build that supporting work program. So the last area of the engagement that I want to highlight is an important one, the creation of the financial statements. So within an audit engagement, we've included ASPE financial statements, and we've again tied the building of the statements into the audit work that you're doing throughout. So I'm going to go back into my revenue work program, revenue audit program, and I'm going to go down to the presentation section of this work program. And you'll notice here we have a procedure called notes. So select the notes to include in your financial statements. So what this is doing is taking you through the disclosure checklist and the adding of notes to the financials right when you're doing all of the audit work for revenue. So this is when you know the work the best, and when it's the best point for you to be determining what should be in these financial statements. And now back on my documents page, I'll go to my financial statements. And the first document I'm going to go into is the financial statement optimizer. And so this is what's used to set up the financial statements the way you would like. So you can make selections here, like whether or not you'd like a combined statement of retained earnings with the statement of income and loss, which method you're using for the cash flow statement, choice of naming conventions for the different financial statement areas. And once you've completed the optimizer, we can jump into the financial statements themselves. So my statements have been created. I'll jump to my statement of financial position. And you'll notice we have some warning indicators here. So these warning indicators are telling you when there is a balance that doesn't tie either to another statement or to notes. So in this case, this is telling me that my cash flow statement and the balance sheet number for cash are not agreeing currently. We can then go to the notes, and you'll notice that the sections that are included are the notes that I've chosen to bring into these statements back when I was in my revenue work program. So I have my revenue note and I have a note for deferred income. In addition to building the financial statement notes through the audit programs, we also have a full library of ASPE notes that I can bring content in from here. So I can go into my notes library and you can see I have 305 notes in here. I could bring additional notes in this way. As well, there is also a lot of capabilities around building out notes. So here I can create a new note, and I can add a text section, I can create a table, I can add an analysis chart. And this can be done again both within this file Or as a firm, you can create notes in the firm template that then get added to the library or that always appear on the financial statements. We've covered a lot of features and functionality today. So with Audit, our goal is to build an integrated, risk-driven audit solution. We've also designed a solution that encompasses the other work processes that you must do in order to complete an engagement. So it's allowing you to do more of the engagement work within the software using single source data, cuts down on the duplication of work, and is ensuring accuracy, quality, and efficiency. So we're using centralized risk management, reports and dashboards to keep you focused on the right areas of the file, an integrated client query system, which takes you from the initial steps of gathering documents through ongoing collaboration with clients to wrapping up the engagement and sending the final deliverables. There's guided workflows, scoping in the right content at the right time, and guiding the staff from start to finish. We've also added additional tools like the integration of Analytics AI and sampling selection. Using the CPA Canada PEG content, and the solution ensures that you have the procedures, checklists, and other content needed in order to complete the audit. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and we'd like to invite you to try out Audit yourself. So we'll be happy to spin up a cloud site for you with access to Audit, or to add it to your existing cloud site free of charge while the application is in beta. Get in touch with Caseware today to get started. Thank you for attending. We look forward to working with you.